Hello, everybody. Gbenga, Olatunji here. The ethical theories still on corporate strategic management and ethics. We are dealing now with ethical side of business, ethical side of professions, ethical side of management, ethical side of corporate organization, ethical side of governance, ethical side of strategy. The theory of ethics has a lot to do with management and professional life, and we've introduced it to us before. Now we are going into details of everything we need to know about the ethical theory. The descriptive ethics, normative ethics, meta ethics, personal ethics, business ethics, just name it, moral dilemma, criticism, consequential theory, deontological theory or non-consequential, a lot actually to be dealt with. And we are going into it in details. We are going into it right away. So when we are talking about ethics, what does it mean? Let's personalize it. What does it mean to you? When you hear the word ethics, or when they say something is ethical, what does it really mean to you? Because when we're talking about ethics, it means different thing to different individual. And actually, the word of philosophy of ethics is actually very broad, and that's why we are going into the description and the types of ethics. So ethics, basically, when we are talking about ethics, we are talking about morality. We are talking about the good, the right, the wrong, our perception to life, our worldview, individually, collectively, as corporate organization, as management of corporate entity, as champion or pioneer of industries. What is our worldview? Because our worldview actually has a lot to do with what we make out and what we make for in our society and around us. So basically, for the purpose of our study, when we are talking about ethics, we are talking about morality, acting in a way that is right or wrong, or perceived to be right or to be wrong, to be justified, whether on individual basis or from the outside world's view of our action, even our inaction. Then we are talking about ethics. So we can describe ethics or classify ethics into different forms, especially into three unique forms. So we can talk about ethics from the perspective of description. That is, we say descriptive ethics. And you see, when we are talking about ethics from the perspective of descriptive ethics, we'll be talking about how we make something to be. It's like a reportage from the view of journalism. Doesn't say what the person did was good. Descriptive ethics will not say what the person did was right, justified or not. It will only tell us what it met on ground, and we will say is a descriptive ethics. It only tells us what it met on ground. Descriptive ethics is not going to hide from what it observed. It's not going to take anything away from it. It's just a situational reportage of events as observed. So descriptive ethics involves like in research into moral attitude or position of people, their worldview, their belief system. It's not questioning their action or inaction, whether it's justified or not. So descriptive ethics only will tell us what it meant on ground, having observed the event. So we'll be talking about descriptive ethics. So you can take descriptive ethics to be like the work of a journalist or journalism from the approach of journalism. It only reports what it observed. Doesn't question it, doesn't say it's right, doesn't say it's not right, doesn't say it's good or bad, just tells us what it is as observed. Then we'll be talking about normative ethics. Normative ethics is quite different and quite positional from descriptive ethics. So when we are talking about normative ethics, we'll be talking about an ethical worldview or philosophy in which it has its own established, can we call it doctrine, or worldview in which it can say this is justified, this is right, this is wrong, this is moral, this is not. It is an approach to ethics that most people are familiar with because everybody has their own way of observing things or of judging effects of what they believe is right and what they believe is wrong. And our worldview is actually shaped by a lot of things: our background, our exposure, events that took place in our lives, our experiences, and the like. These are contributors to our ethical formation at the end of the day. So, normative ethics, we establish the moral standard. It tells us that they did was good. No, it was bad. That is normative ethics. So it's normative ethics has its own mind, made up as it concerns events and circumstances, indicating what people should do that is right or why they need to do it. What aspect of behavior is wrong, because normative ethics has its own worldview established. Descriptive ethics is not establishing anything. It will only tell us as it meets the situation or the behavior and observe it as at a particular time. Then we'll be talking about meta ethics. We'll be talking about meta ethics. What is meta ethics? When we are talking about meta ethics, we are actually talking about the aspect of philosophy of ethics in governance, in corporate management that is explorative. It's actually like a form of research. It goes into research, telling us and digging deep to give us answer of the definition of what ethics really is. It tries to answer what is morality. What is morality? So when we're talking about meta ethics, is more abstract of them all, even though it's real. It's just like research. When the work is ongoing, it's as if the researchers are doing nothing. But after the research is become applied research, like applied mathematics, applied this, applied that, it becomes tangible. So that aspect of ethics philosophy that's actually study what ethics or morality really is what we call meta-ethics. So it's a branch of ethics that analyze the status, the foundation, what ethics really is. That word, what is ethics? What is value? What is morality? Others, like the descriptive, will tell us what it means on ground, how applicable it could be to our daily life. Normative has its own mind made up about situation and how it's observed and what it ought to be. But when it comes to meta-ethics, it focuses on morality itself. That is, whether it's good, whether it's bad, what is moral, what is not moral, what is morality itself, what is value, what is virtue. That is, or those are the questions that meta-ethics has come to actually answer. Then we'll be talking about ethics in form of personal ethics, business ethics, professional ethics. So when we are talking about personal ethics, this is the worldview of individual, how individual believes something should be, what is moral to them, what is not moral, what is wrong, what they believe is right, behavior that they accept, the behavior that they will not tolerate. So it is intrinsic in individual. We have those principles. Somehow it becomes inbuilt in us. That is personal. Just as we can have personal ethics, it can go to become a family ethics, can go to become a cultural ethics, can go to become religious ethics. So that is personal ethics. Then from personal, it can become business ethics too, in which an industry, in which a profession, in which a business or work life has a certain pattern of behavior that is common to the practitioner. So it describes the moral principle and value that guide how people or institutions behave, especially when it comes to the world of business, when it comes to the world of transacting, doing business with one another. So business ethics peculiar to a business venture. Likewise, ethics can be stretched to become professional ethics. Professional ethics, that is, guiding principle that binds members of a professional body together. The worldview of the profession, how they believe members should behave, members should do things, members should carry themselves in the world around them. So we are talking about professional ethics, just like as accountants we'll be talking about one of our foremost is integrity, confidentiality. We'll be talking about independence. We'll be talking about competence, professional behavior. We'll be talking about due care. These are the worldview of every accountant because we belong to the same profession. Likewise, so many other professions, they have their own ethics that is expected of every member to have and to inculcate. Then we'll say that is professional ethics. So we've spoken about meta-ethics, descriptive ethics, normative ethics, personal ethics. We're going to move into business ethics. We're talking about professional ethics. These are some branches of corporate ethics that we must know. Let us continue on personal ethics. This may be on a personal note, but when we're talking about personal ethics actually is the mother of them all, and that is the truth, because it is an individual that organizes a trade, that goes into business venture, that individuals come together to become a profession or a professional body. So the foundation of corporate ethics is with personal ethics. That is, we cannot take personal ethics out of every other discussion of ethics we are talking about in this our world. So the good or the stronger individual ethics are, the better our world becomes. I hope we understand. The stronger individual professional, the stronger we are, or the stronger individual professional is, the better our world. So it is important, and that is why we are studying the ethical theory as a profession. Let us talk about moral dilemma. Moral dilemma. When we say somebody is in dilemma, that is, it's a state of more or less a confusing state. So moral dilemma, we find ourselves in moral dilemma many times. So this basically is a situation in which we cannot say there is something actually wrong with the behavior or the behaviors or the options ahead of us. So we have different worldview that to choose from or to base our behavior on, and any chosen one has its own consequence or consequences. And of course, the person or the professional cannot sit on the fence. We just must act. But any action we take, choosing from the different options we have, has its own consequence. So the options presented before us are difficult, but we must choose. And when we choose, the consequences are inevitable. Then we will say we find ourselves in a moral dilemma state. Let me give us an example of moral dilemma. Let's say as a professional we find ourselves, let's say the professional happened to be a man, and his wife is about to be delivered of a child, and he has little or no cash with him, and the doctors are of the opinion that no cash down, no delivery of the baby. The woman is almost running out of life. Here the man has no liquid cash to pay, but he has the fund of his organization entrusted to him. Should he take from the cash, corporate cash with him, to settle his personal bill, to ensure that life is saved, especially that of his lovely wife, or should allow himself to witness being out of cash, not able to pay for the delivery, doctors not attending to the woman until she passed away. This may be a serious example, but life is real. What would be the advice? The man should take the cash that does not belong to him and act in the office as though the cash is still available, but he has used it for his personal need, or should not take from it and suffer greater loss in his personal life. So this is one in a million of situations that professionals we can find ourselves in, and whichever chosen path decision has its consequence or consequences, and we'll say we are in dilemma. Like that man, if a man should experience this example, this is going to find himself in a dilemma. And of course, like I said before, he cannot sit on the fence. He has to take a decision, and the decision must be taken on time. He must take the decision, and the decision must be taken on time. And each decision he is taking, consequence awaits him. Though when we are talking about ethics, personal belief, personal outlook is of greater essence. Likewise, our world or the world around us is a contributor to our philosophy of life. So what is moral in our society may influence our decision, even though on the personal level we may not have that as our philosophy or as ethics, but because we live in an environment that believes in it, we may have no option than to demonstrate it. So what I'm saying now is, generally, there are influencers when it comes to what is right, what is wrong, and our behavior. So that means that it's possible for us to behave in a way that we do not even believe in, because there are other external influences around us. It's equally possible to actually demonstrate from within and leave it outside what we actually believe in. That is, we can live in, out, and we can live out in ethics. Which one is variable? Which one is we are going to go into it? But generally, our society can influence our behavior. What is wrong, what is right may depend on friendship, corporate organizations, worldview that influence the member or the general staff. Also, as nations or as a nation, there could be general belief or philosophy or ethics that is moral, what as a nation believe is right or wrong. Like in some nations, abortion is wrong. To some people, abortion is wrong. Well, somebody may ask me, whether Gbenga, do you believe is right or wrong? I think allow me to keep my opinion to myself as regards this for now. But that is a societal worldview, And when somebody lives in an environment that believes, let's say, animal research is wrong, to carry out animal research becomes unethical in such an environment or in such a nation. So it's not about the person now living or demonstrating his ethics, but it's also about the ethical value of the society. So there could be strong influence on our ethics from external factor or from internal factor that we have inculcated. Let us look at ethics and the law. Ethics and the law. What is law? Law is power. Law is the law of a nation. So law is an agreement binding people together. Law is the legality aspect of our daily endeavor. What we've written down as a code to work with as a nation, it becomes our law. The law of federation, the law of a state. But many times, ethics are not written down. Ethics are not written down. Many of the times, they are abstract, just like meta-ethics. They are abstract. Nevertheless, we leave them out. So it is possible to be lawful and to be ethical. It is equally possible to be ethical and not lawful. And also, not everything that is lawful are ethical. I want to believe we are following. It is possible to be lawful and not ethical. That is not moral, not justifiable. It is possible to be lawful and unethical. It is possible to be ethical and lawful. So the law and the ethics are totally two different things. They could enhance one another. They could work hand in hand. They could work in isolation. We can ask, so which one triumph over the other? Which one triumph over the other? Ethics and the law. Let us take for example somebody that lies to his or her boss. Lying is unethical, but we could not say that that person has broken the law. That I've lied does not say I've broken the law. That is the truth. But it is possible to lie so that I can break the law to favor me. But it is not possible for somebody to be ethical. And it is difficult for somebody, let me use that word, it is difficult to be ethical and break the law. Because majority of the time, that is why they say, what is the spirit of the law? That is, when letter of the law becomes ash. So what is the spirit of that law? That is, when they are putting that law, when they are drafting it, What were they thinking? What were the objectives of people that put it down? That is the spirit of the law. And majority of the time, it is driven towards morality, towards making the society better. So when somebody breaks the law, it is unethical. But somebody can have some other behavioral pattern that are unethical, but yet has not broken the law. As professional accountants, why do we study ethics? We've actually dealt with this topic. So please check the 15-minute video before this one. It's about the ethical theory too. Please check it so that we can move on and gain more speed in this video. So let us look at consequential and non-consequential theories of ethics. Consequential and non-consequential theory of ethics. So when we say something is consequential or teleological, we are actually talking about a branch of ethics that believes in the purpose of our action. Why we did what we did. I hope I'm correct. Yes. Why we did what we did. And the resultant effects. The results may be to us or against us, in our favor or in the favor of the general populace. That is consequential. So consequential theory of ethics has come to study and to tell us that whatsoever we do has its consequence, directly or indirectly, against us or in our favor, directly or indirectly, against the general populace or in favor of general populace. So we can conclude that our action, if it favors us, most likely it's not going to favor other people. And if we take an approach that we want to favor, we want our deeds to favor general populace, the society or our community, our environment, the larger population, it may not favor us as individuals that actually carried it out or execute the action. So these are within the purview of consequential theory of ethics. So under consequential theory of ethics, we'll be talking about utilitarian. We'll be talking about egoism. And basically, as I was defining it, I've mentioned them, but let's go into it one after the other so that we can gain more understanding of what we're actually talking about. When a person takes a worldview or takes an action in which it favors larger percentage of the people around him or her or in his or her environment rather than to favor himself, that person is behaving in a Unitarian way. So we can say that person is a Unitarianist and function from the approach of Unitarianism. So it's a view that morally correct decision in any situation is one that produces the best possible outcome for the people as a whole. And we have people around us that are like that. They are utilitarians. They believe that they should do good for people around them, even though it can hurt them. So this is a consequential approach, and the division is called Unitarianism. I think we will have more of people like this. Our world will be in a better position and a good place to live for everybody. Another approach or division of consequential theory or theory of teleology is egoism. Don't forget ego. Ego, the pride of individual. It, it talks about self in our action. It talks about self in our inaction. So when we are talking about ethical egoism, we are talking about a person took an approach favoring himself first than others in whatsoever he or she had done. The person's behavior is ego-driven, is self-driven. What is it, or what is in need for me? That is the question that person that behave in an egoism way will always answer. And if eventually they could not find something tangible in it for them, even though if they should do it, the world may be a better place, they are not going to do it. And people like that functions from consequential belief, but the division of self, that is, anything that they do should have or always have positive effects on them or in their lives, first of all and primarily. Every other person becomes secondary. But the Unitarians take themselves second. Every other person becomes primary. I hope we understand. So it's like word and opposite. The egoist see themselves and satisfy themselves first and satisfy others, if at all, last. But the utilitarians satisfy other first. The utilitarians satisfy other first and think of themselves last. And let's go into the business world now. Our business world basically functions more in a consequential way or consequential approach. So the world of business justify profitability, and we all agree as professionals now that for any organization to survive, profit is inevitable. Profit is inevitable, no question about that. But the question now is how we profit, how we go about profiting. That is the question. So, but using consequential or teleological approach, profit motive can easily be justified. Profit motive can easily be justified. So we just want to make and ensure we make profit irrespective of our action to the ecosystem, irrespective of whether we have to lay off staff or render them redundant. The consequence belongs to them. But we are going to take egoism approach rather than utilitarian approach. But we can still justify we want to make profit. Whether we downsize, anyhow we do it, in as much as we can make profits and maximize profit, we are good. And that is consequential theory of ethics. Of course, it has its criticism, just as we know it has its good effects. We have Unitarians in the house. They are self-driven, they are goal-oriented, and they ensure they better their lives. They are progressive because we always ensure there is something in it for them before they even go into anything they want to lay their hand upon. Main criticism. One, it is difficult as a consequentialist to predict in advance what the consequence or consequences of our actions will be. What will our action be? How is it going to affect others? Who precisely is it going to affect? How is it going to affect them? We have no clue by the time we are executing or behaving the way we've behaved. Also, anybody that functions under consequential theory will always have answer to justify his or her self-interest. Anybody that functions under consequential theory will always have answer to justify his or her deed. We are not through yet, but we've studied the type, descriptive, normative, meta-ethics, consequential ethics. We've studied about the utilitarians and how they can shape our world. We've studied the egoists, how they can shape our world. The two of them, of these worldviews, are under consequential theory of ethics. We shall go into non-consequential now, or what we can call deontology, deontological theory. I wouldn't want the video to be too long, so we'll take another step and join us. But don't forget to subscribe now. If you are yet to subscribe, tell others, comment. We will move on to non-consequential theory, and also we'll look at its consequences where it can be applied, just like consequential theory can be applied to justify our self-interest, to justify our profit motive as business owner in the corporate world, in management, for our strategy. Can use it to justify. We are going to see how we can use non-consequential theory and in what field is it relevant and its criticism. From G. James Associates, Gbenga Olatunji, I will be signing off. Later we'll be talking about ethics and the social responsibility. Now let us go into non-consequential theory of ethics. Non-consequential theory of ethics.